Hello everybody, my name is Luke Marr and this is Hot Mode, and today on Hot Mode we're coming to you with your Golden Globes review for 2025 Part 2. We have a lot of looks to get through. Buckle up, buttercups. There is a Part 1 already out, so if you're looking for some of the other looks, you can go check out that video, but here we're going to talk about all the other looks, so be prepared. First up, we have Brody, who is wearing Prada, and I'm going to be honest, I like this. We're going to see a couple of colored suits, and for the most part I didn't really mind the idea of the colored suits. I think this is one of the better ones. I think that the double-breasted works really well. I think that this green and this black actually are kind of perfect together, and the wonderful thing about this Prada suit is you have the black lapel, the button, and the bow tie, but then because we have all those little details of black, when the shoes come in this patent leather, it's kind of perfect. Instead of like clambering for a brown shoe or a gray shoe, which I feel like we're always doing, or putting like a black with a blue, we actually just get a nice shoe that works. I think it fits him well. I like the little floral on the lapel, the actual like flower. The pants are good. Everything works. Next up, we have Adrien Brody, who is wearing Thom Browne. Now, he is wearing a three-piece suit, and honestly, as far as Thom Browne goes, it looked like Thom Browne to me, but I couldn't tell if it was actually Thom Browne because something about the suit, aka the hem of the pant, isn't upturned like most Thom Browne suit pants are. Like, normally you have that sort of cuff at the bottom, so the fact that there wasn't that, I was kind of shocked because Thom Browne once said that when David Bowie early on in his career was like, I want to buy one of your suits, but I kind of don't like that fit. I want something different. Thom was like, well, this is kind of like how we make them. This is like how they're supposed to be worn. And David Bowie was like, okay. So the fact that Adrien Brody was like, I'll take a non-cuffed hem, interesting. But I actually think that in reality it's kind of fantastic. I think it really elongates his legs. I think that the Thom Browne signature boot brogue also looks fantastic with this silhouette too. I like the little waistcoat. I even like the little squiggle brooch pin thing. It's weird, it's a little out there, but at the same time it adds just a little pizzazz, and the fact that it's also black but sequined allows it to blend in just a little bit but still stand out. So I have to say, very into this. Next up, we have Amy Adams. She's wearing Dolce & Gabbana, and here's the thing. I think the color is luscious on her. I think that the off-the-shoulder is fantastic. Even the drape, like we can see that there's texture on the bodice. Actually, I think it looks really nice on her. It's nothing to write home about. It's not the most exciting dress in the world, but at the same time, I think that it fits nicely. It works color-wise. Like, I can't complain about it being bad. It's just not as interesting as I personally would prefer, but I think that Amy Adams looks beautiful. Recently, I've been seeing looks and I haven't been loving them, so I'm gonna be very happy with this. Next up, we have Garfield, who is wearing Gucci. Here's the thing. I like the green suit with the black lapel. I just think that compared to Adam Brody, who wore that Prada suit, like this feels a little looser. And unfortunately, it doesn't look as good. Normally, I don't do who wore it better with women, but with men, we could do who wore it better. So who wore it better, Adam Brody or Andrew Garfield? I'd love to know. But here's my big issue. I don't mind the unbuttoned shirt kind of thing. I don't even mind the fact that the double-breasted blazer is open. I wish that wasn't the case, but it's fine. I think my biggest moment and pain point is the split hem pant, which I know that Sabato De Sarno, the creative director of Gucci, is really pushing, and I like Sabato, very nice guy, but I just hate a split hem pant. I just think that, unfortunately, it doesn't look great, and then also they're kind of baggy, so it's kind of strange. What I do think is happening is that we're pushing the Gucci horse bit. It's like a loafer, but it's really a boot. So I think that's also why we're seeing the split hem, is that you can see a little bit of the horse bit, and I will say, very into a horse bit loafer recently. Like, I have not yet gone to the store to buy them, but I will be buying a brown pair, okay? So I'm influencing myself to influence you all to be influenced. Like, I do think that the horse bit loaf shoe leather moment is having a moment. So, and aka I need it in order to have a moment. So I do think that's maybe why we're seeing the split hem pant, is to focus that detail, but at the same time, I still don't love the split hem pant, unfortunately. But besides that, it's okay. Next up, we have Andrew Scott, who's wearing Vivienne Westwood. This is a custom look, and it's this icy blue, and I really appreciate that it's the suit jacket, the shirt, the tie, and the pant are all this color, but something about it feels just a little off. And I don't know if it's just me. It could be me. I'm very open to it being me. I don't know if it's the fact that we have just a black boot and maybe that removes us from like this real full icy blue fantasy. I don't think that they should have added in like details of black because I'll be honest, it might have sort of cheapened it, but maybe something to break up the icy blue could have been beneficial. I don't really know, but maybe it's just his stance and like the fact that one of his legs is sort of turned out a little bit that I just am not obsessed with it. There's just something about it, and it's really maybe the pan is my issue where it just feels awkward. And again, I really think that it's just that it comes in with that boot, and I'm like, nobody was gonna make an icy blue leather boot for him to really go full look. So I can't be too mad, but at the same time, it doesn't work for me. Next up, we have Anthony Ramos, who's wearing Prada. And here's the thing about this look. There is most definitely like a reference for it. If we look back, you can look at older Prada collections. There's actually quite a few Prada collections where there are belted styles over more like military or tailored pieces. So it's not that that's not a thing. I just think that unfortunately this belt in particular doesn't really do anything for the suit. Like the suit feels not loose, but it definitely is boxier. It's not like super well trimmed in at the waist. If it's not meant to sort of taper at the waist, I don't understand putting the belt on it because then you're either going to pull it really tight and it's going to look strange and scrunch, or it just feels like an extra piece of fabric that maybe isn't really necessary. And I understand like doing a design concept, but I'm not loving the design concept there. I like the boots, I like the pants. I think it's just that one singular thing. And maybe like a Prada buckle or something on the actual belt around it maybe would have changed it. I don't know, but it feels like it needed something about the belt to make it a little bit more dynamic because it just felt a little awkward to me. Next up, we have Anya Taylor-Joy, who is wearing Archival Dior by John Galliano, funnily enough. And Tiffany and Co. It's a beautiful big old necklace with a little starry kind of bursts, although it doesn't look like my kind of starburst. I will say it doesn't look like the kind of starburst that I would personally enjoy from a culinary perspective, but like I get it. Now listen, the dress itself is really pretty simple. It's a silk slip. I don't think that it's actually cut on the bias. I'm pretty positive it's not, but I'm not exactly sure. But I don't see the seam work anywhere to indicate that it is cut on the bias, which is a Galliano signature. What I do know is that the dress is backless because I've seen pictures of it and has this rather deep sort of plunging cowl, both a little bit in the front, but in the back it really kind of plunges down and cowls out. Now this, I'm pretty positive, is from the spring summer 1998 season. I don't know if it's from the Haute Couture show. I don't think it is because I feel like it would be a little bit more embellished, and also this doesn't really read to me as like the Marchesa Casati, which was the influence of that collection. It feels much more the spring summer 1998 ready to wear collection, which was called In a Boudoir Mood, and this slip gown feels much more boudoir moody to me. I'm not obsessed with the dress, but I do think that it fits her well. I think the color is nice. Again, it's a tough color, I think, with this background. It also, I just think these like really pale pinks on paler people, it's tough to sell, I think. I do love the pashmina stole thing. I think that's actually rather interesting. I think it lends you to the Galliano-ness of, selling a little bit more of a garment, like the way that she's holding her arms. It has that old world feeling to it, a little 20s, a little 30s, a little woman of the night, but like she's just going out for the evening. And I don't mean a woman of the night as in like selling themselves. I mean like woman of the night of like going out to an event. It's good. It's fine. It's nice. I enjoy it. I'm not obsessed with it, but I can be happy. So I think that was my big thing about this Anya look. But I do find it really, really interesting that she's wearing Dior by John Galliano when normally she wears like custom Dior. Next up, we have Ashley Graham, who's wearing Bach My. I like the dress. The plunging neckline, good. I love the drop waist, but it's kind of like a high-low drop waist situation. It's very classic Bach. I think the silhouette really works. I think that Ashley looks nice. I like the sleeveless detail. I like the fact that it's also just all black. You know what I mean? I think that Ashley was doing carpet interviews, so it makes sense why you'd want to just look nice, but not stand out too much. So I enjoyed. Next up, we have Cooper Koch wearing Giorgio Armani. Listen, as far as like black suits go, yes, is it a boring black suit? Sure. But at the same time, it's not a poorly fitted, boring black suit. So I think that's also really important to note. It's simple and it's easy, but again, it fits. It looks nice on him. He doesn't look bad. It's doing that genuine male hot gaze thing. I don't know if it's gaze with the ZE or gaze with the YS, but it's something. It's fine. I'm not obsessed. I would rather see something more interesting, but also it's his first season, so like I'm not really expecting like too much. Next up, we have Dakota Fanning. She's wearing Dolce & Gabbana. I love this. I thought it was beautiful on her. I think this red is really dashing and daring. I think the gathering is lovely both on the bodice and on the skirt. And then I love the fact that the way the train sort of comes out of the actual bodice around her neck and then creates this sort of long chiffon train. I think it's nice. I think it plays into this whole idea of the red, the fabric, letting it do the work, the texture. It is still one piece in total, but I enjoyed it. I thought she looked lovely. I thought the color was really striking. I like the design elements, even though it's rather simple or it's sort of more just about casual technique. There's no heavy encrusting or embellish or embroider. It's just letting the dress that fits well do its work and to play on color theory. So I thought it worked well. Next up, we have Eddie Redmayne. He's wearing Valentino. This I really like. It's honestly so cool and so simple, yet not that simple. I think wearing a graphic suit for a man is not always something that they're willing to do. Even when they wear colors, like we were seeing earlier, that's a little bit more easy to get behind. Whereas a graphic, like a grid like graphic like this, I think is kind of scary to people. And so I appreciate that Eddie Redmayne, as of, I'm going to say like the past year and a half, 2 years, really has not shied away from fashion at all, and it's really like exciting to see. I think that the shirt collar is great. I feel like it means that you don't really need to wear a tie because the collar is so interesting and so high. So it gives it almost like a rigidity, almost like a dressiness to it. It feels like an old school men's collar, which when you look at Valentino, Alessandro Michele, it would make sense to me why you'd see almost like a 19th century sort of collar setup there. It's just very kitschy, old world, which is what Alessandro Michele likes to do. I also just think the grid in general works. Like it fits. It doesn't overwhelm him. I think he carries it well. I think the pants maybe could fit a little bit better, but I don't hate it. I love that he's also wearing like a patent leather heeled loafer. I'm assuming that it's a Louboutin because I can see the red at the bottom. And I have to say, I think if you're going to do like dandy-esque sartorial, yeah, like wear your heeled lube, very Sun King Louis XIV. I'm into it. Next up, we have Emma Stone, and she is wearing a Louis Vuitton. This is the first time that I'm seeing the dress where I actually enjoy it more. When I first was seeing it, I was seeing it with her having her hands in her pockets, and it's fine. I don't hate a pocket in a dress. Like, I think that's needed, it's necessary. I completely understand it and respect it and get it. I just didn't like the way that when she had her hands in the pockets, it like bulked out a little bit of that hip exaggeration and it kind of changed the dress a little bit. So, like this, love. For the photos, beautiful. Keep the hands out of the pockets. But when we're, inside doing our thing, or even on the way there, you know what I mean? Like you need to get your phone, your keys, whatever. Go bonkers for the pocket. I actually think the silhouette is nice. It's pretty simple. I think that the red satin belt, actually, I kind of like. I don't know. I feel like I'm changing. Something about the fact that it's not like a buckled belt, but rather the sash bow belt thing sort of sits on the side and looks a little bit more intriguing, a little bit more geometric and not sculptural, but geometric. I will say again, I think it was something strange about the way that a lot of the dresses were hitting the floor. Like this, we can see that when it hits the floor, and it does perfectly hit the floor, it crumples the dress a little bit. So maybe like a centimeter, 2 centimeters, we raise it up, it would help a little bit. But Emma Stone wasn't the only person that was having this problem. It seemed like a multi-human being issue. But besides that, I actually really like the look in general. Next up, we have Felicity Jones. She's wearing Prada. This is like a longer version of a look that we just saw on the runway from Prada. It was fully sequined, but then it had these crystal mirror panels in it. Objectively, if you think it's ugly, I'm not going to disagree with you. I think it's a little kitschy, a little fun, a little weird. It's also not my favorite thing in the entire world. Like, I find it so hard a lot of the times for people to pull off silver. It's very, very difficult to do. I do think that the adding in of the mirror panels and the crystals does play into the Prada isms of it all. And I think that Prada is very into intriguing embellishments and sort of defying this idea of what embroidery can be. So I like elements like this, and I will say it feels kitschy and a little out there, but it doesn't feel so ugly because it's on there. So that I have to give a lot of credit for, because sometimes if you do something gimmicky like that, it can feel really awkward and annoying and attention grabbing. And this, I think that they all kind of mesh well into the actual dress. Again, not my favorite, but this could have gone very south, and I don't think that it's gone nearly as south as it could have. Next up, we have Halina Reijn, and she's wearing Prada. This I don't love. Here's the thing. Prada, interesting embellishments. Like, I think that these two sort of panels that run down the sides of the dress, interesting embellishment, interesting embroidery, whatever it is, I don't know. I think it's interesting from like a isolate it from the problem. But when we add them in on the sides like this, and it's just kind of awkward and weird, and the straps come out, like it's not good. It's ugly. It's bad. I can't say anything about it. And sometimes there's just certain things you can't intellectualize. It's just not possible. And this is one of those moments where I say, unfortunately, not even I can find something that I really like. Like I do again. I like the actual embroidery of it all, but the dress itself, in terms of the look, eh. Next up, we have Jeremy Strong. I love this custom Loro Piana suit and bucket hat. I feel like I never see these kinds of colors from Loro Piana, so like that we're doing something a little out there, a little flashier. I think that this like sea foamy green velvet really works. I love the sweater underneath of it. I think that it plays into Loro Piana's cashmere element. Like that's what Loro Piana is known for. So I don't mind a sweater. The shoes I'm not obsessed with, but it's very rare I'm obsessed with a shoe. But I love the bucket hat. I think it's weird, and I think it's fantastic. I think it's wonderful. And I feel like Jeremy Strong is a fashion guy. Like, he goes for it. Even if people don't like it, even people think like, oh, why would you do that? It's like, whatever. I don't care. I enjoy it. I feel like he plays his hand. Like, he does it. And I think that in a way, it's like a Coleman Domingo where you're like, all right, like even if I don't love every single element of it, I love that you do it, because it's very rare that we see men really take risks, and I think this is a risk. So long live the green velvet Loro Piana bucket hat. Next up, we have Jodie Foster, who's wearing Dior, and I want to not like it. I don't know why, but at the same time, I think I like it, and I don't know why. Something about the silhouette maybe is a little dowdy, I would say, like, and I don't even think that's a Jodie Foster thing. I think that's like a Dior thing to me sometimes. But there's actually a slit. If we zoom in, we can see that the slit that runs down the front of it is actually, I thought it was maybe just like a row of buttons. I think it's a row of crystals, little crystal panels. And that I actually think kind of works. Normally, I think that a line running down the center of you is never helpful. But in this case, because of the length and the fact that it's really just a panel of fabric that goes straight down, there's no bodice and skirt separation whatsoever. It's really just like a kind of slender A-line silhouette, but it's sleeveless. We can see that the crystals that go around the neck and the armholes actually also sort of play into this. Even the pockets, like it feels like somebody that owns an art gallery. That's an aesthetic to me, is the art gallery owner. Like, they're kind of fashion forward. They don't play to norms and concepts that is expected of them. And I think in this moment, like, Jodie is doing that. The hands in the pockets are very sort of like firm and cool, and like, I respect it. And I don't know, something about it to me works. And you know that I'm not lying, because like, this is Dior, and also I am trying to figure out a way that I'm like, I don't know how it works. So this is honesty. I appreciate it. Next up, we have Karla Sofia Gascon wearing Saint Laurent. Here's the thing about this dress is I know exactly what this dress is trying to do. I think that the color work is great. It's very Saint Laurent. It's very sort of bright, vibrant, color theory, color blocking. It's something that Yves Saint Laurent did very well. I mean, the color alone, people still to this day ogle and talk about the way that he used color. I don't know if it's the gathering or the one shoulder or the fact that it's kind of like wrinkled in the front. There's something about it that maybe just isn't landing to me. I think the colors work really beautifully on her. I think I just have an issue with one shoulder dresses. I think I have an issue with draped one shoulder dresses. Also, maybe it's like the hair covering the side, so I'm not really able to see what's going on this side of the shoulder. Like, there's something here that's not working, but the baseline is like fine, but also it feels a little off the rack. Next up, we have Kate Hudson. She's wearing Carolina Herrera. It's a strapless A-line with sheer panels that are covered in fabric flowers and then gathered sort of stripe underneath. What I'll say is because the navy blue is so dark, you don't really see from afar too much of the striping, which I actually think is probably for the best. I find that it's very difficult to do striping well. I think Wes Gordon, who does Carolina Herrera, actually does a pretty good job of doing striping and not making it feel really awkward and weird. And I think that this color choice also helps that. It's nothing really crazy, but also at the same time, beautiful dress. Beautiful silhouette on her. I think that it also lets the necklace really do a lot of heavy lifting. And I mean, it looks like a big old sapphire. So I'm into that. She looks pretty. It's nice. Nothing to write home about. Next up, we have Catherine Hahn, who is wearing Altazara. She's wearing a black, somewhat off the shoulder top that has an asymmetrical hem that then has a yellow, somewhat pleated, maybe gathered skirt that comes down, and also there's a belt on it. And like I see an interesting concept, like the black and the yellow definitely look good together. I just also like don't understand though it feels a little daytime, a little separates that maybe I wouldn't have chose to go together. The look just feels a little too odd. Next up, we have Carrie Russell, who's wearing Stéphane Rollin. Here's the thing. The white sort of dress with the shoulder pads is a lot of look in and of itself, especially in a stiffer fabric like this. The plunging neckline, the belt with the crystals in the center, the slit in the front. But what makes it weird is the back. I assumed just from certain angles, because I've yet to see like a side angle of it, that it was like a one shoulder wrap thing that came down, but I don't think that's it. I think that in reality there's probably just excess fabric in the back that's meant to sort of create a intriguing side silhouette, but I just don't think it works. I think it was either just the photos that were chosen or the way that she posed didn't lend the piece to really show itself well. So it looks like she's wearing kind of like a dress jumpsuit thing that has like a weird arm wrap around the back, and it's strange. I also think that from the waist down you're like, oh, it's a gown, and then from the side you're like, oh, there's a sash on the back. So it just feels like a lot of moving pieces that in reality are not moving well together. Next up, we have Maren Morris, who's wearing Carolina Herrera. Honestly, simple, easy. The color is great on her. I'm really intrigued by this curved neckline. It's not wildly out there, but it seems like something that I'm seeing a lot of. And I have to say that in reality, the height of the neckline actually lends itself well to the choker jewelry that she's wearing. I think that that's smart. I think it's understanding how the neckline and the jewelry that you're going to wear will work together. And in reality, that neckline just sort of points to that choker. And I think that that's what you want. So simple, but honestly very effective. Next up, we have Michelle Yeoh, who's wearing Balenciaga. And this is one of those draped wrap dresses. But unlike the Carrie Russell dress, the thing is, because it's black and the fabric, it's more so the fabric choice, is that it's not reflecting all of those creases so much, whereas a lot of the other dresses that are like this reflect the light, and so it feels much more crinkle garbage bag. This, in reality, sucks in a lot more light, and so it doesn't feel as brutal in terms of texture. I actually think that it works. I think the sleeveless element is good. The fact that, again, it's also an asymmetrical diagonal drape, fine, but there's nothing asymmetrical really going on in terms of anything else. So I think that also helps you to not have to think about that. What I also think is rather nice is the neckline. I know it is frayed and it looks kind of crazy. At the same time, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Morticia Adams' hems of her dresses, where they kind of like flare out and they're strange and odd. But again, it's Balenciaga. I wouldn't really expect anything else. I think that Michelle, hair wise and all that sort of stuff, understood that if this is going to be so high, I need to make sure that's all playing into it or not playing into it. It works. It's good. Next up, we have Miley Cyrus, who's wearing Celine. This is by Eddie Slimane, but now we have a new creative director at Celine, Michael Ryder, so I'm interested to see when we make that shift over. But it's okay. I'm not obsessed with it. Like, I don't think, again, she doesn't look bad. It's not a bad dress. She doesn't look awful. Like, it's a nice dress. It works on her. The cutouts are interesting. The silver and the black is very Eddie. It's really clean, really simple. I just am not as in love with it as I feel like I normally am with Miley's looks. As of recent, I feel like last year she really was like fashion, huh? And I feel like this is just a little simpler. And I understand I don't know if she was up for anything. I didn't think she was, but if she is, great. But if she isn't, then it makes sense why you would do something along these lines, something a little bit far back. But I like fashion Miley Cyrus. So whenever she's willing to do that, I'm happy to be here. Next up, we have Monica Barbaro, and she is wearing Christian Dior. This is a good Dior. You know what I mean? I expect it to be really simple under Marie Grazia. There's not really too much excitement, not really like, whoa, anything crazy. But I will say that I think that this dress, it works. I like this little fishnet with the crystals in it. I think it's lovely. I think the drape along the bust is wonderful. The skirt, the pleating, gorgeous. Like, it's just a nice dress. And that's the thing I think that's good about Dior is if it's not going to be exciting, at least it looks good on her. And there's no belt, so everybody's winning. Next up, we have Naomi Watts. She's wearing Schiaparelli. This is a custom Schiaparelli. And here's the thing. I actually think it is a good dress except for that one singular panel at the bottom. I don't mind those cutouts, those sort of laid on cutouts that look, I don't know, like sticky boobs. Beautiful file cabinet of sticky boobs. I think that's fine. The neckline itself, fantastic. The fit of the dress is fantastic. And also, like, that's why you wear black velvet. It sucks in the light and you look good. But the non-velvet pink at the bottom, the way that it hits the floor, again, weird. It's just weird the way that everything kind of hit the floor. Maybe it was the carpet. Maybe it's really plush. I don't know. But something is weird about it. And then on top of it, it just seemed kind of unnecessary. Like, there's a lot going on with the sticky boobs as it is. I don't know if we needed anything else to make it like a full floor length column gown. Maybe we just stick with the sticky boobs. Next up, we have Nicole Kidman, who's wearing Balenciaga. I believe that this is custom, but I will say, I actually think that the silver fabric works. The lightness, it's lovely. It doesn't feel too Party City, and RIP to Party City, because it's going to be tough to make those references going forward. But the big element of the dress that's like important is that it's backless, so it has like a full sort of backless detail. I will say, like, I can see where the sheer panel is, but they did like a decent job of matching it skin tone wise, so like, to each their own. It's fine. It's okay. It's not the worst Balenciaga I've ever seen in my entire life. I think the fabric actually is quite nice and really does hold up very, very well. Backless detail, it's trying. I don't love it, but I don't hate it either. Next up, we have Pamela Anderson wearing Oscar de la Renta. I believe that this is custom. It's okay. I feel like it's very black satin, bustly train skirt. Like, I will say it actually hits the floor better than everybody else for the most part. I don't know if I love the neckline. I understand what we're trying to do, that sort of frilled bodice smocking bust area thing. Like, it's fine. But again, it's not really crazy. But I will say, in terms of like the opera gloves and the jewelry, like, it all plays in very well together. So as far as dresses go, there's a little intrigue with the train. It fits her well. Like, you can't be mad about it. Next up, we have Quinta Brunson, and she's wearing Roberto Cavalli. It's a pretty easy fitted gown. I was going to say I don't love the straps, but they're not as haltery as I thought they were, so I'll take them. I think that it fits her immaculately. I think the brown velvet is actually lovely, and the crystals on top really sort of help to make it intriguing. The bust shapes, don't love, but besides from that, I actually think that it's a pretty nice Quinta dress, and I'm into it, so I'll take it. Next up, Salma Hayek, Gucci. I don't love it. I don't really understand Salma. She confuses me. The waist is snatched. Cannot lie. I just don't really understand the sequin bodice into train and then the non-sequins underneath that. And I think my biggest issue with it is the way that the straps come. Like, why didn't we just cover that part of the shoulder? Like, why did it need to have a strap like that? And then the necklace is wild. That's a big necklace. But I feel like it's being covered up by stuff. But the straps, again, like they're making it a little claustrophobic for me. So that like that insane necklace can't really like do the work. I don't understand it. I think my biggest issue is the paneling here that's non-existent because it should exist. We have Sarah Paulson wearing Ellie Saab, and this does not read super Ellie Saab to me, but like I'm not obsessed. It reads very Sarah Paulson to me. I feel like lately she's really into these like very big, wide shapes, and I think it works. I love these feathers. I feel like boobs are in. I like the way that the feathers also sort of trim the outline of the hips and then move all the way down the sides of the dress. It's weird, it's strange, it's very Dr. Seuss to me, but Sarah Paulson to me is also very Dr. Seuss. Like she would not shy away from kooky crazy out there. So I think it works for what it is. Next up, we have Sebastian Stan wearing Prada. Listen, I would say as far as this goes, it feels actually pretty Prada to me. The white piping on the outside of the lapels and down the side of the pants, it works. I wish the pants were a little bit better. They're a little tight. The sweater, no tie, it's okay. I feel like a tie would have just wrapped it up a little bit, but the sweater underneath, I don't really mind that much. I think a sweater actually kind of makes it a little bit more intriguing, and also like wearing a sweater underneath your jacket is cool. I also love the jacket length. I feel like that's a very interesting length that feels almost coat like, almost jacket like, but in reality it's kind of like I guess it's more of a jacket than a blazer, but yeah, I think this works. Next up, we have Selena Gomez. Selena, I could not find a picture of her on the carpet, really, but she's wearing Prada. It's custom. It's this light, icy blue. I think it's good. I think it's nice. I like the closure detail on the off-the-shoulder bands. Like, it feels almost like a triangle or something. I think that it fits her well. I don't think it's really trying to be super crazy or out there. I think that she's really recently just sort of honing in on silhouettes that work well on her. I think that this is another one that works. Like she gets it. I will say I like the hair, and I think that the necklace all works. And I think again the off the shoulder lends itself to work well with the jewelry, which is important. And I feel like it's working. I'm into it. Next up, we got Tilda Swinton. She's wearing Chanel. This is custom. Now, she's clearly paying homage to the iconic Chanel tweed blazer. It's a collarless jacket usually, but the thing is, this I don't think is tweed. I'm pretty positive that this is, I don't think it's sequins. It might be the floral of the white is all embroidered. I know that obviously the gold that goes all around pipes the pockets, or the non-existent pockets, is obviously embellished, and so that I love. But I'm trying to figure out what actually the white floral is. It could be embroidered on, which would take a lot of time. It could also be matelassé, which essentially is like embossing fabric. So I don't really know how it's been done. I am not on the Chanel PR emails, and I understand why, but I love this. I think it's beautiful. I think the black skirt is honestly perfect. I think Tilda just gets it. Like she nails everything she does. So she looks radiant. She looks wonderful. So I'm always excited to see what Tilda does. Next up, we have Tyler James Williams, and he is wearing Dolce & Gabbana. And here's the thing. From the waist up, I'm fine with this. I like this silhouette on him. He normally does a very sort of wide shoulder and then a nipped in little waist, and it works so well. It's a great silhouette for him. My issue is the pant. Or if this is a jumpsuit, I don't know. But the pant, I hate how it falls. Like it's draping itself so loosely over the shoe, and that feels weird to me. And I think that's my biggest issue. Like otherwise, it's a really great look. I just wish that the pants were fitted better. Next up, we have Zoe Kravitz. She's wearing Saint Laurent. It's a black velvet gown with little white waist sash that creates a train. Nothing crazy, nothing wild, but at the same time, I think it works. I think it's lovely, it's easy, it's clean, it's simple. Like not much more you could ask for. We could ask for a little bit more excitement, but also at the same time, like it's Saint Laurent. It's very simple, it's very clean, pretty minimal. I would love to see her in like a beautiful brocade jacket and bright, sheer lace colors and all those kinds of things. But as far as the Golden Globes go, like this is nice. And lastly, we have Zuri Hall. She is wearing Suzelle Taveras. I don't know the brand, but I know that this was custom made for her, and it was made for her. I mean, this sculptural, geometric bodice is fantastic. It's sharp and it's angular, yet it's also really soft. The skirt is fantastic. Like, she just looks beautiful to me. Stunning. This is what I mean when I'm talking about like Anna Sawai and that Dior from earlier. Is like, that's what it should look like if it's Dior, not that. But this is where we come to an end. So let's talk about best and worst. Worst, I'm going to put Karla Sofia Gascon. I'm going to put Halina Reijn. I'm going to put Catherine Han. Naomi Watts. Salma Hayek. Men-wise, I'm going to put Andrew Scott. There wasn't too much horrible menness going around. There's a lot of that regardless. But let's talk about best, though. I'm going to put Dakota Fanning in the Dolce. I'm going to put Adam Brody in Prada because I really loved that. I thought that was fantastic. Monica Barbaro in Dior. I think that Quinta Brunson, I'm going to put in Roberto Cavalli. I enjoyed very much so. Tilda and Zuri Hall and Suzelle Taveras. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. I will see you guys very soon for the Critics' Choice Awards. It's coming up. So thank you again for watching. See you on the next one, and TTYL.